Yo ho everybody, and welcome to another edition of Yinzer on Hockey. Today I want to take a look at the Vegas Golden Knights and whether or not I believe that their run is good for the organization and good for the NHL as a whole. Now, I'm not an incompassionate person. I think the run that the Vegas Golden Knights are on is incredible, and it's a great story for all the players involved and how each of them have some form of a failure to success story in what they've accomplished this year. From Marc-Andre Fleury being ousted by a younger goaltender to some of these other players who were deemed expendable by their previous franchises. And they're all great stories. You could take each one of them and write a novel on the success they've had this year, and Hollywood couldn't write a better script for what Vegas is doing this year. But wanted to look at it from a more broad perspective and what it does for the future of expansion teams and what it does for the future of Vegas and their fan base. Now, we have all tried new foods. And the first time we try a new food or we try a new restaurant and you take that first bite and you realize you're like, wow, this is the most amazing thing I've ever tried in my life. And then you go back to the restaurant or you try the food again, a couple of weeks, couple of months later, and then you realize it's like, maybe it's not what I thought it was. So for Vegas this year, what they're doing is like that new food. Everybody in the league is buying into it. All the fans, all the world is all watching the Vegas Golden Knights, and they're like, wow, this is amazing, and it's incredible to watch. But when you come back to it next year, is it still going to have that same appeal? Because they're not going to be that expansion franchise anymore. And they're not going to be the new kids on the block. It'll still be they'll still be the newest thing, but people won't be as excited about it. So maybe some of that luster wears off. And the other thing it does is, with Seattle more than likely getting announced as an expansion franchise at some point this summer, what does that do for their expectations when they come into the league? And will it be as easy for the NHL to market that new franchise like they've been able to market Vegas because of the success Vegas had? And the format of the expansion draft is probably going to guarantee that Seattle was able to draft a lot of very talented players, with the teams only able to protect so many players on their roster, and there's obviously more than enough NHL capable players for Seattle to choose from when they get to select their franchise. But they won't be able to leverage the expansion draft the way that George McPhee has leveraged this year, with being able to accrue all the extra draft picks, all the extra assets. Florida, for example, was not able to, in a deal to guarantee that Vegas took Jonathan Marchessault instead of other players that they might have thought was more valuable to protect, they added the Riley Smith contract onto the Marchessault drafting, because they thought that that was a too heavy of a cap casualty for them to have on their roster. The Pittsburgh Penguins, in order to be able to protect Matt Murray as their future goaltender, was forced to give away a fourth-round draft pick in the 2020 draft to ensure that Vegas did indeed take Marc-Andre Fleury. And there's different stories like this throughout Vegas's expansion draft. And I don't think teams are going to go out of their way to protect one specific player. I think they have their no movement clauses in place, and I think if they felt these players are mandatory to protect in the expansion draft, then they'll work with the players prior to the expansion draft to ensure that the players they want to protect have no movement clauses and no trade clauses in place to protect them in the draft, and they're not going to be as willing to give away future draft picks and future assets as they were with Vegas. As people look back, the last expansion was 2000, and I don't think any of the current general managers were in place for the 2000 expansion. So this was a new experience to them, and they didn't know how to manipulate their rosters in a way that they could get the most out of them. The other thing it does for the Vegas Golden Knights fan base, one, they're not going to have the global appeal that they have this year. I know there's always going to be a niche group of people in Vegas that this is the first hockey they were introduced to, and Vegas has done a good job marketing the sport and marketing the players, and they've been successful, so that helps draw in new fans to the arena, to the experience. But next year, or a few years down the road, whenever it may be, Vegas is not going to be winning the division. Vegas is not going to be, scoring 109 points in the regular season, and they're not going to be going to the Western Conference Finals and or the Stanley Cup Finals. Are they able to maintain that fan base whenever they're not as successful? Is Vegas going to prove, or are they going to be proven to be a viable hockey market, or are they going to be proven to be fair weather or bandwagon fans, or whatever you want to call them? I'm not fond of the term bandwagon fans, but are they going to be just a flash in the pan type fan base? And I think that only time will tell. Only time will be able to answer that question. So we'll have to wait and see for that. But if they are not able to sustain the attendance that they had this year, sustain the success that they've had in the years to come, what happens to Vegas in the future? Just a few questions to ponder. I personally enjoy the story. I enjoy what Vegas is doing. I'm glad that it's brought success, because I think with the success that it's bringing, it also brings in more revenue for the league. It brings in probably an increased salary cap next year to a higher extent that maybe people are prognosticating right now. There may be even a higher growth in the salary cap due to all this extra revenue that Vegas is bringing in this long sustained playoff run that most people didn't expect them to have. I, for one, predicted in one of my earlier videos that Vegas would be knocked out by Los Angeles in the first round. So any additional rounds that they've accrued on top of that, in my eyes, is bonus hockey that they shouldn't be playing right now. So it's good for the sport right now, but what does it do for the sport going forward? That's the question that I have. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Is this run that Vegas is currently on, is it good for the sport? Is it good for the franchise? And is it good for the fan base to have this massive amount of success that's probably, well, not probably, it is definitely not sustainable in the long run in today's modern era of hockey with the salary cap and revenue sharing? Is it sustainable? More than likely not. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Feel free to like, share, and subscribe if you're just passing through. And we'll talk hopefully in a couple of years about what this particular run did for Vegas. Alright, thanks. We'll see you next time.